single keystroke in the shadows can unravel empires. This is the story of the hacker who destroyed companies in 2024 and 2025. From the outset of 2024, cybersecurity experts warned of a new breed of cybercriminal. Sophisticated, relentless, and often impossible to trace. This was no longer the era of lone wolves seeking notoriety, but of organized actors wielding digital weapons with devastating precision. By mid-2024, the world had already witnessed a surge in attacks that crippled giants. Telecommunications, finance, retail, and even cultural institutions found themselves under siege, their defenses breached by invisible adversaries. Please subscribe to the channel to support what we do and help us keep digging into these hidden stories. Now let's dive in. The hacker at the center of this documentary was known only by the alias Satanic. His digital fingerprints appeared in some of the most high-profile breaches of the year, sending shockwaves through boardrooms and governments alike. In November 2024, retail chains Hot Topic and Box Lunch were rocked by a breach affecting nearly 57 million customer records. The hacker Satanic claimed responsibility, posting a staggering 730 gigabytes database for sale on a hacker forum. The compromised data included names, email addresses, physical addresses, phone numbers, purchase history, birth dates, and partial credit card details. The sheer scale of the breach stunned cybersecurity professionals and customers alike. But this was just one chapter in a much larger campaign. Throughout 2024 and into 2025, Satanic and other hackers systematically targeted companies across continents, exposing vulnerabilities that many believed were sealed tight. In July 2024, Disney fell victim to a group calling themselves Nullbulge, who infiltrated internal Slack channels and exfiltrated 1.2 terabytes of sensitive employee communications. The breach revealed not only operational secrets, but also internal dynamics and strategic plans. The telecommunications sector was hit repeatedly. In July, AT&T suffered a massive breach, with nearly all its customers' data compromised. The company reportedly paid $370,000 in Bitcoin to the hacker to delete the stolen information, a move that exposed the desperation of even the largest corporations. Meanwhile, hackers targeted the financial sector with equal ferocity. In June 2024, Truist Bank disclosed a breach dating back to October 2023, with a hacking group known as SP1D3 are selling employee data online for $1 million. The attacks were not limited to theft. In November, Krispy Kreme's IT systems were crippled by a cyber attack, disrupting online orders across the United States. The company scrambled to contain the breach, but the full extent of the damage remained unclear for weeks. Starbucks, too, found itself in the crosshairs. A ransomware attack through a third-party supplier led to unauthorized access to internal systems, potentially exposing sensitive employee information and internal documents. The Internet Archive, a cornerstone of digital preservation, was not spared. In October 2024, a malicious JavaScript injection compromised 31 million user accounts, exposing email addresses, usernames, and encrypted passwords. Even the developers behind beloved franchises were vulnerable. Game Freak, the studio responsible for Pokémon, suffered a breach that leaked employee data, source code, and details on future projects. The scale and diversity of these attacks revealed a chilling truth. No sector was immune, and no company too large to fall. The hacker Satanic became a symbol of this new era, an era where a single individual or small group could bring multinational corporations to their knees. In December 2024, the Salt Typhoon campaign, attributed to Chinese state-sponsored actors, targeted 9 U.S. telecommunications companies, including Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. The attackers accessed core network components, stealing metadata and, in some cases, audio recordings. The Salt Typhoon breach was described as the largest U.S. telecommunications hack in history, raising national security concerns and highlighting the vulnerabilities in critical infrastructure. The financial consequences of these breaches were staggering. According to IBM's 2024 cost of a data breach report, the global average losses from a breach rose to $4.88 million, with some companies facing class action lawsuits and irreparable reputational damage. 5. Operational downtime, legal fees, ransom payments, and customer loss due to damaged trust compounded the devastation. For many companies, the aftermath was a struggle for survival. The hacker Satanic was not the only threat. Other groups, sometimes state-sponsored, sometimes independent, exploited vulnerabilities in widely used platforms like Ivanti, forcing companies to overhaul their cybersecurity at enormous cost. The motivations behind these attacks varied. Some hackers sought financial gain through ransomware and data sales. Others aimed to expose corporate secrets or disrupt operations for political reasons. Law enforcement agencies around the world raced to keep up. But the anonymity of the dark web, the use of cryptocurrencies, and the global nature of the attacks made prosecution rare and difficult. In the wake of each breach, companies scrambled to reassure customers, patch vulnerabilities, and rebuild trust. But for many, the damage was already done. Stock prices plummeted, lawsuits piled up, and customers fled to competitors. The psychological toll on employees was immense. Many reported feeling betrayed by their employer's inability to protect their data, while IT teams faced burnout from the relentless pace of incident response. The hacker Satanic became a folk villain in cybersecurity circles, his exploits dissected in conferences and white papers. Yet, despite intense investigation, his true identity remained a mystery. Some speculated that Satanic was a lone genius, others that he was part of a larger collective. Rumors swirled of connections to state actors, but no definitive proof emerged. As 2025 dawned, the attacks continued. In February, Meta confirmed a WhatsApp spyware hack, while the Department of Defense and major defense contractors reported stolen credentials. An IoT data breach exposed 2.7 billion records, highlighting the risks posed by the proliferation of internet-connected devices in both consumer and industrial settings. Healthcare was another prime target. In November 2024, Kaiser Permanente's email servers were breached, potentially affecting over 40,000 people. The incident underscored the vulnerability of sensitive medical data. Law firms, too, found themselves under attack. Thomson Coburn and its client Presbyterian Healthcare Services reported a breach that could impact over 300,000 people, triggering immediate legal action. Even government agencies were not immune. The Library of Congress suffered a breach in November 2024, with hackers able to read private emails between employees and congressional offices. The hacker Satanic was linked to several of these incidents, either directly or through affiliated groups. His methods were studied for their ingenuity and ruthlessness. One hallmark of his approach was the use of double extortion, stealing data and then threatening to publish it unless a ransom was paid. This tactic proved highly effective, forcing companies into impossible choices. In some cases, companies paid the ransom only to find their data still leaked or sold on the dark web. The sense of helplessness was pervasive. Cybersecurity experts warned that the wave of attacks was not a temporary phenomenon, but the new normal. The digital transformation of business had outpaced the ability to secure it. The story of the hacker who destroyed companies is not just about technical exploits, but about the human cost: lost jobs, shattered trust, and the erosion of confidence in digital systems. For the victims, recovery was slow and uncertain. Some companies never fully regained their footing, while others emerged with a renewed focus on security and resilience. The attacks forced a reckoning in boardrooms. Cybersecurity budgets soared, and new regulations mandated stricter data protection measures. But the arms race between hackers and defenders showed no signs of abating. Each new breach revealed fresh vulnerabilities, and each patch was met with new tactics. The hacker Satanic remained at large, his legend growing with each passing month. For many, he was a cautionary tale, a reminder that in the digital age, a single individual could wield the power to destroy companies. The world watched as governments and corporations struggled to adapt. The lessons of 2024 and 2025 would shape cybersecurity strategies for years to come. The aftermath of the Salt Typhoon campaign sent shockwaves through the telecommunications industry. Companies scrambled to audit their networks, seeking out any lingering traces of the attacker's presence. Forensic teams worked around the clock, poring over logs and traffic data to identify what had been exfiltrated. The realization that core network infrastructure had been compromised led to a reevaluation of security protocols at every level. Telecommunications executives faced tough questions from regulators and customers alike. How could such a breach go undetected for so long? What other secrets might have been stolen? As the investigation continued, reports emerged of similar tactics being used against companies in Europe and Asia. The campaign's global reach underscored the interconnectedness and vulnerability of modern communications. Meanwhile, the retail sector was reeling from its own series of cyber attacks. In early 2025, a major breach at a global fashion retailer exposed millions of customer records, including payment information and order histories. The attacker, using techniques reminiscent of Satanic, exploited a misconfigured cloud storage bucket to gain entry. The incident reignited debates about the security of cloud-based systems. Retailers rushed to implement stricter access controls and encryption, but the damage was already done. Customers voiced their frustration on social media, demanding accountability and transparency. In March 2025, Jaguar Land Rover suffered a data breach that exposed 700 internal documents. The hacker, known as Ray, claimed responsibility, posting samples of the stolen data online. The breach included sensitive information about upcoming vehicle models and manufacturing processes. Industry analysts warned that such leaks could give competitors an unfair advantage. Jaguar Land Rover responded by enhancing its cybersecurity posture and launching an internal review. The incident highlighted the growing threat to intellectual property in the automotive sector. Financial institutions continued to be prime targets. In April 2025, a regional bank in the United States reported a ransomware attack that disrupted online banking services for days. Customers were unable to access their accounts, and the bank faced mounting pressure to restore operations. The attackers demanded a ransom in cryptocurrency, threatening to publish stolen data if their demands were not met. The bank ultimately refused to pay, opting to restore systems from backups. However, the incident resulted in significant financial losses and a loss of customer trust. Elsewhere, the healthcare sector grappled with a wave of breaches. In February 2025, a ransomware attack on a major hospital chain forced the cancellation of surgeries and delayed patient care. Medical staff resorted to pen and paper records as IT teams worked to contain the attack. The breach underscored the life and death stakes of cybersecurity in healthcare. Patients whose records were exposed faced the risk of identity theft and fraud. The hospital chain offered free credit monitoring, but many affected individuals felt that was cold comfort. Law enforcement agencies intensified their efforts to track down the perpetrators. International cooperation increased, with agencies sharing intelligence and coordinating takedowns of hacker infrastructure. Despite these efforts, arrests remained rare. Hackers continued to exploit jurisdictional boundaries and the anonymity of the dark web to evade capture. In January 2025, a new wave of phishing attacks targeted employees of technology companies. The emails were sophisticated, often mimicking internal communications and leveraging social engineering to trick recipients into revealing credentials. Several companies reported unauthorized access to internal systems as a result. The attacks served as a reminder that human error remains a critical vulnerability. Cybersecurity training programs were expanded, with a renewed focus on identifying and reporting suspicious activity. Still, the sheer volume of attacks made it difficult to keep pace. The education sector was not immune. In early 2025, a ransomware attack disrupted operations at several schools in Scotland, forcing closures and delaying classes. The attackers encrypted vital systems, demanding payment for decryption keys. School administrators faced the difficult decision of whether to pay or risk prolonged disruption. Parents and students expressed frustration, while cybersecurity experts warned that such attacks on public institutions were likely to increase. The media industry faced its own challenges. In April 2025, a major news organization disclosed a breach that compromised source materials and internal communications. Journalists worried about the safety of confidential sources, while editors scrambled to assess the potential impact on ongoing investigations. The incident raised concerns about press freedom in the digital age. The breach was traced to a vulnerability in a third-party content management system. The news organization worked with the vendor to patch the flaw and prevent future incidents. Meanwhile, the automotive industry continued to grapple with the fallout from the Jaguar Land Rover breach. Competitors analyzed the leaked documents for insights into JLR's future plans. The incident prompted automakers to reevaluate their own security measures, particularly around research and development data. The stakes were high, with billions of dollars in intellectual property at risk. In the world of finance, cryptocurrency exchanges became a favorite target for hackers. In March 2025, a major exchange reported a theft of $80 million in digital assets. The attackers exploited a vulnerability in the exchange's hot wallet infrastructure. The incident reignited debates about the security of decentralized finance platforms. Regulators called for stricter oversight, while customers demanded compensation for their losses. The exchange vowed to reimburse affected users, but the reputational damage was significant. The public sector faced its own share of challenges. In early 2025, a breach at a government agency exposed sensitive personal information of thousands of citizens. The attackers gained access through a phishing campaign targeting agency employees. The breach prompted calls for increased investment in government cybersecurity. Lawmakers held hearings to investigate the incident, grilling agency heads about their preparedness and response. The breach became a flashpoint in debates over digital privacy and national security. In the energy sector, a ransomware attack on a major utility provider threatened to disrupt power to millions of customers. The company worked with federal authorities to contain the attack and restore service. The incident highlighted the vulnerability of critical infrastructure to cyber threats. Experts warned that future attacks could have even more severe consequences. As the year progressed, the pattern of attacks became clear. No industry was safe, and the tactics of hackers continued to evolve. Companies invested heavily in cybersecurity, but the arms race showed no signs of slowing down. The hacker Satanic remained a symbol of this new era. His exploits were discussed at cybersecurity conferences, analyzed in academic papers, and debated in boardrooms. Some experts argued that the rise of such hackers was inevitable, given the rapid digitization of business and the proliferation of connected devices. Others pointed to failures in basic security hygiene, such as unpatched systems and weak passwords, as contributing factors. The debate raged on, but solutions remained elusive. The insurance industry responded by raising premiums for cyber coverage. Companies faced higher costs and stricter requirements for coverage, adding to the financial burden of defending against attacks. Meanwhile, the legal landscape shifted. Class action lawsuits against breached companies became more common, with plaintiffs seeking compensation for lost data and damages. Judges grappled with complex questions about liability and responsibility in the digital age. The outcomes of these cases would shape the future of cybersecurity law. In the world of academia, researchers studied the psychological impact of cyber attacks on employees and customers. The findings were sobering. Stress, anxiety, and loss of trust were common outcomes. Mental health support programs were expanded in response, but many affected individuals struggled to move on from the trauma of a breach. As 2025 wore on, the pace of attacks showed no signs of abating. Hackers continued to innovate, leveraging artificial intelligence and automation to scale their operations. Defenders responded in kind, deploying advanced threat detection tools and machine learning algorithms to identify and block attacks. The battle played out in real time with billions of dollars at stake. The hacker Satanic was rumored to be behind several new campaigns, though definitive attribution remained elusive. His legend grew with each passing month. Cybersecurity professionals warned that the next major breach could be even more devastating. The interconnected nature of modern business meant that a single vulnerability could have cascading effects across industries. The documentary team interviewed experts from around the world, seeking insights into the motivations and methods of hackers like Satanic. Some described him as a digital anarchist, seeking to expose the weaknesses of powerful institutions. Others saw him as a mercenary, motivated by profit above all else. Regardless of his motives, the impact of his actions was undeniable. companies destroyed, reputations ruined, and lives upended, all with a few lines of code. The story of the hacker who destroyed companies became a cautionary tale for a new generation. Business leaders were forced to confront the reality that cybersecurity was no longer optional. Investors demanded assurances that companies were taking adequate steps to protect their assets. Boards of directors appointed chief information security officers and allocated larger budgets to cyber defense. Despite these efforts, the threat landscape continued to evolve. Hackers adapted quickly, finding new ways to bypass even the most advanced defenses. The rise of ransomware-as-a-service platforms lowered the barrier to entry for would-be attackers. Anyone with a grievance and a modest budget could launch a devastating campaign. Law enforcement agencies struggled to keep up, hampered by limited resources and the global nature of cybercrime. International cooperation improved, but gaps remained. The hacker Satanic became a symbol of the challenges facing the digital world. His story was a reminder that technology, for all its benefits, also carries significant risks. As the documentary drew to a close, the message was clear. The battle between hackers and defenders is far from over. The lessons of 2024 and 2025 will shape the future of cybersecurity for years to come. The world waits, watching for the next move in this high-stakes game of cat and mouse. For now, the line between security and chaos remains perilously thin. Yet, the question lingered. Could the next Satanic already be lurking in the shadows, preparing to strike? The documentary closes with a chilling reminder. In the interconnected world of today, the line between security and chaos is thinner than ever. And as long as that line exists, the story of the hacker who destroyed companies will remain unfinished. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel for more stories they don't want you to know.